Welcome to CuriousJohn episode. To be honest, I'm not sure. This week I wasn't going to do a podcast, and this one will likely be late because as I'm recording this is quite late on a day where I need to go to sleep to go to work, right? And so the only reason I mention that is because that'll likely very much so pressure me to edit this and get it out late, but still within the same week. But I digress. I was getting ready for bed, doing the normal stuff, brushing my teeth and getting all this other normal kind of day-to-day stuff out of the way. And I wasn't going to do a podcast this week. It's just been a crazy, hectic week. A lot going on and feeling a little bit more burnt out this week than in prior weeks. And so I wasn't planning on really getting a lot done as far as podcasts. And it kind of bugs me to know that I can't prioritize this as much as I would like to. This podcast is a unique little creative endeavor for me that I do want to focus on and I do want to spend quite a bit of time on. But ultimately, it's one of those things where I have so many other things going on that sometimes this does take a back burner, which bugs me. But anyways, I sometimes talk about how I'm given motivational gifts, if you will, at the weirdest times and sometimes inopportune times. And today was one of those. And as we have touched upon many podcasts ago, where I on many podcasts, to be honest with you, the position of taking yourself out of the box. We often are byproducts of our surroundings and our experiences. And because of that, we find ourselves at grinding going forward. You deal with stress. Oh, this bill came in. Oh no, my family member is wanting this from me. Oh no, this is happening. Oh no, I have this school project done. Oh no, I have this work project done. Oh no, I have this thing I have to help out a friend with. Oh no, I have this social experience, this social pressure for me to get this thing done. Or oh no, I have to get this thing done for my boss, right? Like as we grind, we find ourselves in a box where we have blinders to the realities of the greater vision of things. That saying of you can't see the forest amidst the trees is that idea that you can't see the greater scope of what's going on when you're in that scenario, when you're in the forest. That's the same analogy when I always use about the box, right? And so as I'm brushing my teeth, and one of the things I do far too often is go through my Instagram feed. And I'm very lucky and have found a nice curated version of things that really work well for me. And Instagram is probably more to blame on that than anything else. And I often get a lot of motivational stuff. I get a lot of creative stuff. I get a lot of stuff like what I'm about to describe. So as I'm on Instagram, I find this I'm so a whole bunch of videos. I'm going through a whole bunch of videos, and one of the videos I go through is this video of this guy walking, likely in a forest. Sounds like a Portuguese guy. I could be wrong. And he finds this little baby sloth on the ground, and as he finds this baby sloth, he picks him up, and the little baby sloth is wide armed. He's ah, has a little cry, and he's a little baby sloth, and as he picks him up, you see that what you assume is the mother sloth going towards him, and he gives the baby to the mother sloth. And in that process, the little baby goes and grabs onto the mom, right? And just kind of hooks onto her. And as he goes to take a picture of the sloth, what you assume is a she reaches out and grabs his hand. And it's always weird when you see a wild animal like that. You're oh, is she gonna attack him or whatnot? But she's very gentle, and he kind of grabs her by the nails. And I go through the comments on that, and a lot of people are oh, they're all very nice comments. Assuming that the mother is being, what we assume is the mother is being thankful for retrieving her child. And depending on what your viewpoint on life is, it's very likely that that's the case. And so the reason why I'm even talking about this is because that kind of welled me up a little bit, right? I'm not one to pretend like I don't get emotional about stuff. That's quite the opposite. I likely get more emotional about stuff than I ever lead on to be. But it made me well up a little bit because as I'm watching that, like there's a piece of me that definitely thinks of like you're projecting your emotions onto these creatures that you assume have emotions, which my experience, at least with dogs, is that they do have emotions. And so you assume that if they have the same emotions that humans do, and that extension of the arm was an extension of like thankfulness for what he did for her. It's kind of like a beautiful moment between him and this animal, this creature, right? That he just kind of came across. And one of the things that kind of made me think about this and bring all of this into perspective is, if, and there's a lot of ifs in this conversation, by the way, if this sloth, what we assume is a mom sloth, did feel these emotions and did experience the things the way we think that she did, it puts things into perspective when it comes to, especially for those of you that have children, it puts things into perspective when it comes to the idea of like, what are you feeling like if you're that sloth? The anxiety of your child being gone, your anxiety of this other larger creature coming up to your child, the anxiety of like this creature picking up your child. What are you feeling there? Right? And then probably likely the thankfulness and the appreciation you have for this creature that is now giving you your child back. And so the only reason why I say this is because most normal people will see that, and depending on who and what type of person you are, you would either get emotional about it, you will either appreciate that moment, you would either be jealous of that guy for getting to have that moment, you would either be just appreciative that occurred and you got to see it on your phone, whatever the situation is, right? For me, my initial thoughts on that is I dissect that moment, and I look back and take a step back and realize that if you're that sloth and that is your child, how everything in your world likely did not matter at that moment except for you getting your child back. How likely your hunger, likely your need for survival went out the window. You are approaching a creature that is quite larger than you, can likely hurt you, has your child, but you're willing to risk that to get your child back. And so I would ask, first and foremost, especially for those of you that are parents, I would likely ask you to put yourself in that scenario. And the reason why all of this is being brought up is because for me, as I analyze that, those thoughts do go into my mind. But the other thought that go into my mind is, that is one of those instances where you get yanked and pulled out of that box as hard as you can, because you get ricocheted and slingshotted out of that box. Because when you sit in a situation where the real things in life for you are in danger, that being your child, that being somebody you love, that's when you get pulled out of that box of like, oh my God, my assignment is due tomorrow. Oh my God, I have my boss is an asshole. Oh my God, I can't deal with this stress. When you get ricocheted out of that box, you gain perspective through the sheer motion of that energy deliverance of ricocheting you out of that box. And so, while I always tell all of you that it's very difficult to pull yourself out of that box and to say, oh, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to get stressed out by this, or to reset when you find yourself so deep in that box and you can't see the forest for the trees, amongst the trees, then ultimately what ends up happening is that you can't. And so I don't know what would be a good trigger for you to reassess and step out of that box for a second. That for you is a greater question. But I will say that realize that there is levels to your primal and societal priorities. And it's often good to take a step back, whether that's through some sort of mechanism like a phone, a calendar, a reminder, a just a daily kind of meditation, whatever the situation is for you, there is a huge benefit, a tremendous benefit for you resetting somehow amidst the stress. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to try to get this out sooner rather than later. I was originally not going to do a podcast this week, but I hope this is worth it for you. And I hope that this has been insightful. And I hope those of you that follow me on Instagram at LifeGeneralist got to see this video, because I will be posting this on Monday. Reposting that video. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Great week moving forward. Talk soon.